Good evening, cult members. Good night, cult members. And welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our instantly after the episode review, reaction, discussion of Daredevil Born Again, now on Disney Plus, part of the MCU. We are doing the first two episodes tonight, and the first one is called Heaven's Half Hour, and the second one is called Optics. And if you haven't been to one of our reviews before or discussions or however you want to word this, we haven't read the comics. I know a little bit of the comics. And so most of what we are going to be coming from is the previous Netflix series and the MCU. Because they said some things in these two episodes that directly involve the MCU.
Right, and after watching the Netflix series, you're like, oh, they said that thing. It's not just the incident in New York or however it was they put it.
Yeah.
Ever since the incident.
Yeah.
It's a little more than an incident.
Yeah. I want to get into that because they didn't go into the weeds with that kind of stuff, but in these two episodes, but I think they will discuss it more as we get down the line. And
maybe, yeah.
We also do full spoiler discussions. So if you have not watched the 2-episode premiere, please go watch it. Like us here on Spotify, like us here on YouTube, subscribe to the channels, and come back and watch them afterwards. And we'll be doing this weekly after each episode. I think 4 and 5 are also together.
Okay. All right. At least the time will have changed by then, so then it would be 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock for us.
Yeah. We're in the great warm state of Arizona, and we don't believe in daylight savings time because we're actually like...
You all move around us, and we just stand still.
And then we have the abacus out trying to figure out who is what's the time, like half the year. Okay, so let's get into the start of episode 1. Spoilers. They just... I posted to Facebook. Some of us are still on Facebook. 10 minutes in, and they have pulled 0 punches and killed off a major character.
Yeah, I can't... I said it, I think, several times. I can't believe they brought the actor who plays Foggy, back for 5 minutes. What is his name? Eldon Henson.
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes, and then they killed him. I was like, no, he's not dead. He's gonna get up. And then Matt's on the roof listening to his heartbeat stop.
Yeah. While he's fighting Bullseye, actually getting pen cushioned by Bullseye. Story narrative wise, I understand. I get the story beat of that. To back up, though, some of my thought process with this show is going to be dealing with the fact that I know that they filmed half of the first season and it wasn't working. And Vincent D'Onofrio said, this is not right. And went to Kevin Feige with Charlie Cox and said, this isn't working. And they ditched the showrunner, ditched the writers, and went and got Deborah Ann Wall and Eldon to come in and play Paige and Foggy. And so I am emotionally connected to those characters because of the arc that we got in the Netflix series.
Yeah.
This is a continuation of that series. And so when they kill Foggy off in the first 10 minutes, I'm like, this is a dream sequence or something.
Yeah, this can't be real. Yeah, and then it makes sense why she leaves, right? So now
Karen's not there yet.
Karen leaves and is in San Francisco apparently now. So, I mean, this
helping
is...
Ant-Man, I guess? I don't know.
This is the Matt Murdock show now.
And I'm gonna do some real world bitching here for a second. On IMDb, you need to get your shit together. The first name listed on IMDb for this episode is John Bernthal,
who was not in this episode.
He's gonna be in this series. He is not the number one booking on this show. I'll give you Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Charlie Cox is fourth in the bookings of his own goddamn show. When that whole sequence was going on, they made a point of showing the landscape of New York.
Yeah.
And the streets, and they go to Jonesy's, one of the cops. Josie's. One of the cops that they work with on a regular basis. It's its retirement party. It's all shot away from everybody. Like, it's not like the camera is down the street as they walk down the street.
And it's also one of the first things that hit me and kind of took me a minute to get over is the grittier feel. Like the Daredevil, like all of the Defenders shows on Netflix all had that pretty bright, crisp, you know, what we expect today.
Yeah.
4K, 8K TVs, right? We expect to see that. And it's almost more of the 70s, like you see the old 70s kind of news footage or whatever of New York, especially Times Square, where it was super seedy.
Yeah,
and
70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Kind of, time period, yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of gave it that feel. But I'll get there. It's taken a minute to adjust to it.
That's why I brought it up. Is because when all of that goes down, it feels like a dream that Matt is having.
Yeah.
And that his decision is going to have to be that he understands that he needs to stop the vigilante part of his life as Daredevil and use the law.
He's always known that. He's always known that the people close to him were, in harm's way.
Right, but I as a storytelling narrative, I thought having him start with him having this nightmare of Bullseye coming back and killing a bunch of people around him, including Foggy, that was going to be the trigger for him to go into this legal drama that the show was supposed to be.
Right.
And then ultimately it wasn't. I hate that I love this decision.
It's a love-hate relationship.
It's and a lot of my reaction to the Daredevil series, which much is the same way. Like, a lot of the decisions they made in that show, I was often like, oh my god, I don't believe he did that. That's great. I'm so pissed off right now. But it's the same decision that the Russos and Marcus McFeely did with Endgame. And when they cut at the end of them beheading Thanos, and the screen goes black, and then it pops up 5 years later.
Yeah.
You're supposed to sit in that sorrow.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have that hanging over you as you continue on watching the show. And so, as a storytelling aspect, I love it. I hate it for Eldon.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't know if he really is acting or wants to act a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see him in anything, so.
But I'm holding out hope because they just announced Deborah, Eldon, and Charlie for Washington State Comic-Con, which is going to happen this summer. And so I find it very interesting that's all three of them are going to, because it's been Charlie and Vincent going around on the circuit together.
Yeah.
And then Deborah's kind of been jumping in and out every once in a while.
Yeah.
And so I find it very interesting that the three of them were announced today. Now, that's just a marketing thing because the show came out today. Yeah. But the three of them were announced today.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they do a time jump. Now, everything from the time jump of 1 year later moving forward. Actually, wait a minute. I want to talk about the fight for a second. The Bullseye and Daredevil fight. Because it's a oneer from Daredevil or Bullseye walking through the fog up to Josie's all the way into the bar, then back out onto the street, and then back into the bar, and then up the stairs, and then out onto the roof.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that Daredevil shows started with the oneers in the hallway scenes.
Yep.
This time it was just a staircase through the bar. It was a great fight. It was choreographed great. And then then Matt making the decision after Foggy dies, throwing Bullseye off the roof.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of those times, I think, and it's going to happen a lot over the next 8 episodes. 9 episodes. Is that we just did a rewatch of everything, and then New Rockstars just did a breakdown of those 3 seasons and Defenders.
Right.
Bullseye got a metal spine.
Right.
After Kingpin broke his back.
Right.
Now, in the comics, that metal spine is antianium, which is a word I just can't say.
Antinanium.
Antinanium. It's the Wolverine metal. So, when Matt throws him off the roof, he survives.
Right. I'm not sure his internal organs would have survived.
No, I don't think so either. But he seems to be pretty resilient as a young man.
Yeah, he's been through a lot.
He's been through a lot, and he's a psychopath, so it's even worse. Okay, so then let's talk about from they do 1 year later. From that point forward, it's the legal drama that we thought we were going to get as the show, and I really think that the first 4-ish episodes, we're going to get this legal drama kind of feel to it. Mm-hmm. It's much more personal. It's much more dialogue based. It's much more back and forth, especially with Kingpin with Fisk and Matt.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to set stuff up, right?
Yeah,
because everybody's in a completely different place than they were in the series.
Yeah.
And you have to explain what happened to Fisk after he left, the end of Echo, mm-hmm. and he gets on the plane, and now he shows up. He's got both eyes. I don't know if one of them does sign language for him still or not, but he's shed, at least
ton of weight,
at least half a human being.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've got to set all that up, and then they've got to get him into office, right? So it makes sense that at least most of this 2 episodes are kind of the setting up, and then I think not to jump ahead, but I think that what happens at the end of episode 2 is probably the catalyst to put Matt back in the Daredevil suit.
Yeah. If you haven't been to one of our reviews, I did put a bunch of caveats at the beginning, because I'm now at the caveat of we're going to go all over the random place, so we're probably going to go out of order a bunch. But yeah, I agree. The catalyst, the meeting they have that's from the trailer of them in the diner, pretty much calling each other out that you stay in line, I'll stay in line. You stay in line, I'll stay in line, back and forth with each other. And then the dirty cops going after a kid, White Tiger? Is that what I can't remember if that's what it was called.
Well, White Tiger's the guy that's in jail.
Right. But him trying to help somebody in street clothes ends up killing a cop. Those dirty cops try to hurt him in prison, go after the guy that he was trying to protect, and then Matt tries and goes and protects the guy, and they try to kill Matt.
Yeah.
And
so he kills them back.
He kills them back, and he makes a point in his conversation with Fisk in the diner that he stopped being Daredevil because the line had been crossed.
Yeah.
And now that line is now been crossed again. And Matt tried everything in his power not to beat the crap out of those guys.
Yeah, he let him beat him up for a while.
Yeah, and he actually pleaded with them. He made a point of saying like he's gone, you're not going to find him. Like it was a thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as he pulled the gun out to his head,
Right.
he had to go off. And then once that trigger has been pulled, he doesn't have that governor like he had before. In the Netflix series, he always had his moral compass was always there. It got played with a little bit in season 3 with Elektra and the ramifications of the Defenders and Mom and all that stuff. But he still had that moral compass. Well, that moral compass was Foggy.
Right. Because and Karen.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of made a. I don't know if you'd say a promise, but he told them repeatedly that he wouldn't kill. And so then to do it, he would, I mean, it's basically a promise without saying, I promise I won't kill.
Yeah.
You know, that once he does it, then he's going to say, yeah, well, okay, I did it. So, and he was going to kill Bullseye. I mean, he tried to kill him. He threw him off the building. So, yeah, I think that's all. Out the window.
Or off the roof.
Whatever. Or off the roof. But, I mean, they did, the showrunners did say that this was going to be, on 12 compared to the Netflix series.
Yeah,
so they're not going to shy away from the violence.
Yeah, they're not going to shy away from the violence. They didn't shy away from the cursing. I've seen a couple people already online like, oh my God, there's cursing on Disney Plus. I'm like, have you watched anything that's been on Hulu lately?
Right. Or Paramount. Not Paramount. Peacock. I was watching a show on Peacock and they swore and I was like, okay.
Hey, you're paying for the service. It's not a free TV. They can kind of get away with a lot more. Other than like blatant sex, which Arrow did blatant sex all the time. So I don't know what the line is anymore.
There's a line?
There's a line. Apparently somebody is supposed to be in charge of the line. Okay, so with the year moving on, Matt has become a much more established defense attorney. He's got a partner in McKinsey, I think was what her name was, who was the DA that Foggy was flirting with at the beginning of the episode.
Yep.
And they are working together, being good defense attorneys, and they have a staff. One of them, she calls Matt's kind of fixer guy, who was the retired cop from the first episode,
right?
His hatchet man, which is like taking shots at him. Matt's wearing better suits. He doesn't live in Hell's Kitchen anymore.
Right.
He's very disconnected from anything that was attached to his time with Karen and Foggy.
And Elektra and Stick and all of that life.
Yeah.
And his fixer guy, the guy who was the retired cop when Foggy got shot, actually saw him take his mask off on the roof after he threw Bullseye off the roof. So he is now the only person, since Foggy and Karen are out of the picture.
Yeah.
He is now the only person who knows who Matt really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really thought that this is again one of those where I think my knowing of what they were going to do and why they changed is gonna kind of like I gotta work my way through it a little bit. But him knowing who Matt is, I think is actually a better decision than having Matt just be by himself with no connection to anyone, the robotic lawyer going through life.
I mean, all I know is that they, what you said, that they were gonna do this, law and order or whatever. Vincent D'Onofrio's already done that. And changed it. So I don't really know where that change has happened in the show.
Yeah.
But you have to, if you think about all of them, there is at least one person in these people's lives who know who they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like for Punisher, it was Matt, and it was, I mean, he went for.
And Karen.
Did Karen know that who he was?
Well, she went to his house and found all
Oh,
this
right,
stuff.
right. She was actually the first one.
Yeah, she was the first one to
kind of
figure it
figured
out,
that
yeah.
out. But so all of them have had some. You have to. There. That's what's going to make Spider-Man a little interesting. Is
Right.
there has to be at least one person who knows the secret identity,
Right.
or
right.
or it's you're just watching one person go through a movie by themselves.
I honestly thought that what they were gonna do was have Matt deal with the guilt of not doing stuff when the city is still going still on
they
fire.
did that, though.
And then Fisk is gonna step in and run for mayor, and then Matt's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean,
be
I thought that whole running for mayor thing was going to be a little longer than an episode.
This is one of those times where I actually know a tiny little bit about the comics, but Fisk being mayor is a big arc within the Daredevil, and they didn't lean away from like talking about who he was before.
Yeah.
The police chief called him Kingpin.
Yeah.
Like so.
Well, yeah, because I mean, he's done some poo, so
Yeah.
and a lot of those people are still around, so you can't just yada yada that away.
Yeah.
Everybody's. I mean, it's still out there. So
Yeah. Let's finish up with Matt a little bit of conversation before we move on, because I want to talk about Kingpin and I want to talk about Fisk. Matt's got a proper girlfriend.
Maybe. I mean, yes. The new partner XDA hooked them up. Told her that he needed a therapist, and told him she needed a lawyer, and got him fixed up. And then now they've hooked up, but so I don't know. Like, was it just an accident that Fisk picked her to be his couples therapist?
I think yes, and I also think no. I think yes, it's just random because because the only reason it's random is because they saw the book. They made a point of showing the book signing.
I know,
she
but
is a known book psychologist.
Yeah.
Person, and so Fisk told his guy that I need a psychologist. There's this person who writes these books.
Yeah.
So yes, and I think it's by accident, but also it's kind of on purpose. But with Fisk, you never know. It could be.
Yeah. I don't trust him. So I feel like he could have totally found out that Matt and her were together. I don't know how or when, but
right. It's been 2 episodes. It's been hour and 40 minutes. So we haven't heard that part of the story.
Which I think is the point.
Yeah.
That they want you to be like, if you know the Fisk from the Netflix series, then you're like, wait, did he seek her? I mean, because he killed Bullseye's stalker girlfriend, his make believe girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't make believe. His girlfriend in his head that he stalked. And he killed her to get him. So it's like you don't put that kind of stuff past him.
Yeah.
But then he's also supposedly trying not to do this stuff anymore.
And he's trying to focus on the campaign, and he's dealing with the being attacked by a vigilante and having to come back from that, and
so dramatic.
She in the comics, I need to learn her. I will learn her name. I swear to God, but she is Matt's wife in the comics.
Oh, is she?
That was one of the big things that they talked about, like. If they're going to do Born Again, they need his wife, and then that's where they need to go, kind of with the storytelling, which adds a layer to the whole Fisk of it all. Like, let's get into the whole Fisk of it. It's very interesting wording there.
Fisk.
I said about halfway through, I think it was actually the diner scene. No. It was when the police chief came and put his resignation in and said that I'm going to take a bunch of the cops with me. Good luck being mayor.
Right.
Oh, by the way, there's something came up. I have to step down by midnight tonight, and I'm not going to be able to be around. And Fisk goes on this story about the police chief being from Philadelphia, and they went to this cheese Geno's. I think it's Geno's.
Yeah, I think you said Geno's.
And he's like, I didn't like that place, but I went to this place, and he pulls the wrapping back to show whatever Ronaldo's. I don't. The name wasn't important. What was more important was the child out of wedlock that the police chief had that Fisk has a picture of.
Yeah.
And so he played the police chief like pretty rough.
Yeah.
But that's a kingpin type move.
Right.
With Fisk in office.
Which then could lead you back to he knows who.
Yeah.
Who Matt's girlfriend is. So.
Yeah. That's but in that whole part, I was like, do you remember in the Netflix series in season 3, he manipulated the FBI.
Yeah.
While he was in prison, with no protection, and then he finds protection, and then gets himself out. He gets his apartment back. He gets
the FBI to kill off all of his or get rid of all of his competition.
Yeah. So that level of planning and scheming is still there. I'm very interested if they play with the idea of he manipulated or affected the election in some way, because he was very convinced that he was going to win the election.
Yeah.
And I find that's a Fisk having a criminal win a known criminal win a major political office is timely.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much they want to lean into the real worldness of it all.
Yeah.
And having Fisk be this beloved tyrant is an interesting kind of story beat to be telling on the screen right now while everything's going on.
Yeah.
And so they kind of hinted at a couple of things, so I'm not going to say they're not going to do it, but it's also Kingpin. Like, this is how it's just, he's always scheming, he's always planning, he's always got 17 layers of
I know there was I mean, it kind of almost looked like New Year's thing going on out in the street, and then
it was New Year's. They all had New Year's hats on.
Okay, because I was like, that timing seems weird, but whatever. Maybe they elect their mayors out of.
I mean, if the election's in November,
but they wouldn't. If it's like presidential, they wouldn't step up until January.
I don't know how New York does it.
Yeah. So anyway, and he was on the screen in Times Square, like making his speech, and some people were booing.
Yeah.
So that I heard that, and I was like, that's interesting that he was supposedly won this, like in this landslide or whatever, and then there's people booing. So
I'm sorry, I'm trying to read ahead a little bit. The other thing with him is his whole relationship with Vanessa has been strained because he went on this, I need to get my life back together. Yeah. I need to get my eye back together.
He went to see Maya and then apparently did not go home.
And they had the whole in Echo. This is why you need to watch everything. In Echo, he shows up with the eye patch.
Yeah.
And so they referenced that multiple times, that he had to put himself back together, and to be to recover from this attack. And he didn't contact her, and she ran the family business and ran it up.
Right.
And now he comes back and says, oh, by the way, good job, I love you, I'm sorry I didn't contact you. Oh, by the way, I'm running for mayor.
Right.
And
And so you need to keep that stuff over there, and I'm gonna go. So he's back? Question mark.
Right.
Like, you, yeah, you've been gone for obviously a while. I mean, they haven't really stated, or made it like, was it a year? Was it 6 months? We don't know. But he comes back, and she's like, "Hey, the business is doing great. I ran it up." And and
we have
then
a good working relationship with everybody.
yep, with everybody, and he's like, "Well, I'm back," and she's like, "Oh, okay." And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna run for mayor, and we have to keep this separate. So, are you back? Are you not back?" It's almost like, "Hey, I'm back, but I'm gonna go live over there." And you're going to live over here,
Yeah.
and you're going to keep running the business, and I'm going to go do this mayor thing.
Yeah.
So are you back?
Yeah.
Or are you just back in the same city? Like, and then he doesn't understand why the relationship is strained.
Because she fell in love with Kingpin, not Fisk.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, I think that's what it is. And now, Kingpin didn't come back.
Yeah.
Fisk came back.
Yeah.
But Kingpin didn't come back, and now she's not connected to that. And again, this is why you watch everything. And in the final season of the Netflix series, she tells him at the end, like next to the last episode, if I'm here, if I'm with you all the way.
Right.
So you better show me all of the workings of what's going on.
Right. But does, I don't know that I believe that she loves him, or that she just wanted the power and the position and the money thought. And, but then she tells the therapist that she was lonely when he was gone, and I'm like, I don't know. They're messy. Relationship.
Yeah, they are a messy relationship, and I think that's on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Because Fisk had such a rough upbringing with his dad and his mom's relationship with his dad that he doesn't really understand what proper love is.
Yeah.
And so she shows him love, but I don't know if it's I'm going to show you love for me or if I'm going to show you love for us.
Right.
And I love that story arc with her because Vanessa is such an important part of every Kingpin that we've ever gotten, including the Spider-Verse one. And so I'm okay with having this lingering question of, is she in love with Kingpin or is she in love with Fisk? And that running kind of conversation through the entire season, which I think is very interesting that we're having these couples therapy meetings. I want those to go on back and forth for a while because it reminds me, because I'm going to bring up something else here in a second, but it reminds me of Sopranos.
Yeah.
It's that Sopranos, part of the reason we were infatuated with Sopranos, besides the acting and the slow build and everything, was the fact of a mob boss going to a psychologist to figure out his poo.
Because he was having panic attacks.
Because he was having panic attacks, and he didn't understand what was going on. And so that slow burn of him coming to terms with who he is, all aspects of who he was why that show was so good. So if you had to have that same kind of aspect here with a couple who are both psychopathic at times in their decisions, it's really interesting. Now I bring that up because James Gandolfini's son is working his way into Kingpin's inner circle, mayor inner circle.
Yes,
and I love that he's the choice for that character.
Yeah.
Him specifically for this character.
Yeah,
he's unassuredly confident. Like he knows the stuff. He just doesn't know how to tell everybody that he knows the stuff because he interrupts a couple of meetings.
He's young, right? He's young and inexperienced, but like you said, he thinks he knows what he's doing, and so far hasn't been completely off the mark. It's more just like kind of little faux pas here and there, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like he just completely doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he's young and he's eager and maybe over eager. But yeah,
He did endear himself to Fisk. So
yeah. Well, and he gives him that young, I know how to TikTok, and Fisk is like, I don't know what a TikTok is.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they said that, but that's kind of the,
Yeah.
you get the Gen Zers to run your social media accounts. Big companies get them to run their social media because they know how to do it.
The campaign manager said something about, if you do, I don't remember what it was, but the important thing was, if you do this, you lose your older demographic, and then you have this character over here talking about the younger demographic.
Yeah, they all love this.
Weave this narrative in between the two, which is what every politician has to do when they run for any political office, especially nowadays with social media and Gen Z being much more active and stuff like that. So it was a nice touch. It's a nice character that I want to see more of, but it's also a nice touch to have some of that, again, that real world conversation of what's going on. I want to talk about BB. The BB report. She's a young upstart, a reporter. They kept breaking into the episodes with these man on the street interviews. Come to find out that she is the niece of the name just left me. The reporter from season 1 and 2 of the Netflix series that Karen goes and ends up working for, that Kingpin has killed.
Yep.
So she has that pedigree. She is from the comic. I know that she is from the comic. She kind of it starts with a Y, and it's right there. Fuck, I don't remember. Anyways, it'll come to me. I'll get to it. BB. She is going to be a very interesting. I won't say foil, but instrument for both the Matt Murdock side and the Kingpin Mayor Fisk side. Is that they're going to use her and her man on the street interviews to kind of tell a different narrative, or tell a narrative that's going to confuse the audience. Because every time they broke in, they had one person say, Fisk is great, he's going to fix things, we have to have him elected. And then the next person's like, he's a felon, he shouldn't be here, I don't know how he even got elected. Like so that there's going to be the use of that, which is really important in the Netflix series. The Fisk owns the newspaper, is getting fed information from the newspaper when they're doing investigations. Stuff is squashed in the news by Fisk and his connections to everybody. So the use of misinformation is another interesting real world conversation. But I just like that character, a young black woman on the street asking people, what do you think of something?
Yeah. And
the narrative that the story runners can use with that is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Very interesting to me.
Yep.
The fight at the end with Matt and the cops was brutal.
Yeah.
Blood spattering everywhere.
So we have two antagonists, we have two, I don't know, other vigilantes.
Yes, we have. Yeah, so you have White Tiger, who is got arrested,
right?
In his clothes.
Well, he didn't get arrested in his clothes.
No, right. He was plain clothes. I was trying to think of like four things in the same time in my head.
Yeah.
It wasn't working out. He was plain clothes
right,
at the time.
But Matt knows who he is now because he sent his what did you call him? Hatchet Man. And
personal investigator.
His personal investigator, and actually the other attorney, right, went to his house to try to convince his wife that she needed to be in the courtroom when he was, on trial or whatever because of the optics thing. And so he went off in the ruse of "I need to use the bathroom," which is the oldest line ever. If somebody comes to your house and wants to use the bathroom, no, you can go outside and pee in the bushes, because
They snooped around and found
and snooped around and found his suit, and so then reported back to Matt what he found. So now Matt knows who he is, and actually got like mad at him for because he's like somebody's got to do it, and Matt's like getting mad at him for being a vigilante, and it's like pot kettle,
yeah.
hello.
I do appreciate that, like, this version of Matt as we got him right now is he's so put that all behind him, but
That's what he's
still there. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah. And then the Muse.
So I'm glad you brought up Muse because I forgot. So in episode 1, not so much episode 2, but in episode 1, there was some news reports in the background of strange graffiti art showing up in the city and stuff like that. And then they showed Muse drawing in the alley Fisk after he wins the election.
Yeah.
Muse is actually the bad guy in this series.
Okay.
He's going to be. He is a serial killer who uses the blood of his victims as his paint. Right.
So, and he is in the second episode, the kid, younger guy that comes up in the book signing and says, I
didn't put that together.
Well, I'm assuming that's who he is.
I'm assuming that's who it is too.
Yeah. He said, I have issues, I need help. And she was like, oh, she put her email address in the book and told him, which is why when she was canceled her dinner date with Matt because she had a session, I thought that was who it was going to be. And then it turns out to be Fisk and Vanessa. And I was like, okay, that's not where I thought that was going to go.
Muse is a very interesting character from the comics because he has this spatial awareness ability where people see him, but they don't like recognize that he's there. So he's able to kind of walk invisibly through the streets. He's also kind of super fast, which I think is going to be very interesting to have Matt, who is got his sonar thing that he can do, and he can heal, but he's of regular, like, he's not super fast, he's not super strong, he's not like all this other stuff.
Right.
So, like, he's going to have to outthink him, whatever. But the fact that they're going to use this serial killer as the main antagonist of the series, there's been some still photos of promotion stuff and stuff from the trailers where they're going to show his room with all the bodies hanging and the draining the blood out of their bodies, and that's going to be a very interesting thing because Fisk ran on this platform of getting rid of all vigilanteism.
Right.
And when he wins, he tells Matt, or right before he wins, he tells Matt, like, if you step out of line, I'm coming after you in every way possible. And so I think there's going to be a point. I don't know the story of the Borgen in the comics and with Muse and stuff like that, but I think there's going to be a point in the show down the line where Muse is on a rampage and they can't do anything about it. There's going to be nothing that they could do about it. And Fisk is going to have to go to Matt and say, I need Daredevil to take care of this. Yeah. And because there's a scene that we haven't seen yet, which is Bullseye, Dex, walking out of prison all shackled up. So I wonder if they're going to try to use him to try to get to Muse, and then he wasn't able to do it, and then they have to kind of and then you have White Tiger maybe having to help Matt at some point in time because he's got the amulet who gives him a super abilities and stuff like that. So it's very, very interesting. So what they've talked about to wrap up here.
The tattoo.
Oh yeah, the tattoo. The cop who attacked the guy in the subway, and then goes and attacks Matt in the apartment. He slams Matt against the wall, and they pause long enough to see the inside of his wrist, and he's got a Punisher tattoo. It's not quite the right way, but it is the skull shape ornaments, and there's some kind of different augmentation on the forehead.
Yeah, like lines that go this way.
It looks like the wavy lines from Fifth Element.
Yeah.
is what it looks like. But him slamming him against the wall, and they pause long enough so you can look at it. We talked about this in the Punisher creator, the Punisher comic creator, came out publicly and told police to stop using the Punisher symbol. You're missing the whole point of the series, and that those of you who think that you are the justice against wrong and using that symbol haven't read the comic. You don't understand. And so they after that all happened, like the next month or the month after, the Punisher came out with a different. It was a horned skull on his chest, and come to find out that he started working with doing supernatural stuff. But for a good 3-4 months, before they actually really explained why the symbol changed, people were having a Harry conniption fit. But that symbol on a dirty cop in New York, very interesting detail to kind of just sneak in there without really saying anything.
Yeah, and they may never address it in the series.
But we know Bernthal as Punisher is going to be in this series.
Yeah.
And I really think that he's going to come in and be the one who, like, kind of puts some of those guys in their place. Like, stop using my symbol.
Yeah,
You're missing the point.
Yeah, maybe.
And I really think that's really interesting. Okay, let's talk about what the series is going to be going on. What is going on with this series? There is 9 episodes. They are filming the next 9 currently. They started last month. They're currently filming as they go along. As we sit right now, we have these 2, 3 and 4, like 5 and 6 together, and then the rest. They are promoting this as one 18-episode season that is broken in half.
Okay.
So, not promoting. That's what the discussion has been. So it's like a comic run. You get 12 issues over a year. The first 6 are one arc. The second arc is affected by the first arc, but it's going to be going on. There has been tons of rumors, speculations, blah, 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 about who's going to show up in the show from the Defenders, from the Netflix series. As we sit right now, there is no confirmation.
Yeah.
However, all of the cast has been seen in New York in the last month and a half. Now, that doesn't mean anything. Actors live in New York all the time. But it's very interesting that they are filming in New York.
Yeah.
And that all of them are showing up.
Yeah. There was a scene when Fisk won, when it was announced. And so everybody's in the streets, woo, whatever. And there is the back of a woman, like she's either leaning up against a wall or like sitting on a pillar kind of thing or whatever, with her back to the camera, and like, I don't know, doing, filing her nails, whatever. And it held on her long enough that I was like, is that Jessica?
Yeah.
It was. Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But they didn't really show. They showed the Muse, his back, while he was painting.
Right.
But everybody else was very. You like saw a face run by as Matt was kind of trying to push his way through the crowd. So I thought that was interesting.
From the trailer, there's you see the Rogers and the Musical stuff, but there's also a quote that is promoting the bar that is from Luke Cage. So they made a point of showing that in the trailer. So there is a very much a possibility that Luke Cage should be in this. Jessica Jones should be in this. Finn as Iron Fist. I really want to see him again. Like, after rewatching the series and watching his his progression as the Iron Fist. There's a reason he played that character the way he did, and people kind of gave him shit for it, and it's not really fair. I would be okay if he shows up. I really want Jessica Hendricks, that was the one that helped Iron Fist throughout the whole. I really like to see her in this series as well. And there's She-Hulk out there, and there's
Spider-Man. They even mentioned Spider-Man.
So that was kind of where I wanted to end with like little hints. They talked about the guy in the spider outfit, the guy with the skull in his chest, the Daredevil. They talked about a couple of random weird incidences that happened in New York, but not saying things by name. There was the random hole.
I was like,
ground.
was that when Doc Ock, like,
when attacks him on the bridge?
On the bridge,
like,
yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
when I saw that hole, I was like, was that from that?
Yeah.
Because it's New York. It probably took them forever to fix.
Yeah.
The carnage of the.
So it was like little things, like not direct hints, but like we're going to talk about this and what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to come out and talk about the blip. The snap and the blip, and like I don't expect that to happen. They will reference it like they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like they did with other things, like the incident. Like I'm talking about the incident in New York and stuff like that in the Netflix series, so that kind of stuff. But I do expect something will happen along that line. They will talk about Baker Street at some point in time. Not Baker Street, Bleecker Street. It's the same guy.
It is.
They'll talk about Bleecker Street at some point in time. So there's too much of the Marvel universe that exists in New York City. So there's going to be more references that they can actually do now than they weren't able to do in the past.
Right.
And stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Definitely.
I will tell you that not every episode is going to go 50 minutes with us talking about stuff, but there was 2 episodes and a brand new series to talk about, so we have to lay out all the groundwork and everything that's going on. What we ask is that you be very nice in the comments. If you are on the Spotify side, follow us here and rate us, I guess is what you're supposed to say. I don't know. How does Spotify work? If we're on the YouTube side, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And like I said, be very nice in the comments. We're still learning like some of the nuanced characters, and we've only spent this one time through the episodes. So I'm sure there's some stuff a detail that we missed that you probably loved. And if you did that, if there was something, tell us in the comments. Also, we are on Facebook. I'm still on Facebook. We are on Instagram. So we're still on Instagram. We're now on Blue Sky. Yay, Blue Sky. We're on TikTok. And I am writing for the Geekiary. All those links to those pages and everything are in the description down below. I just want everybody to understand that we're going to talk about this show the best we possibly can. And if that's not your cup of tea, I totally get it. We're going to talk about the reasons we love it. If that's not your thing and you want to talk smack and bitch about the writing or the actors and whatever, there's other places for that. And I really appreciate you clicking on this video and lasting this long before I go on my little rant about this. But we're going to talk about the things that we loved about this show. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.